Hello and welcome to this week's podcast episode. Little girls aren't taught this. So on this week's episode, I'm going to be doing a episode around why it's important to celebrate your small wins on your self-love journey. This is something that was inspired by a therapy session that I done this morning with one of my lovely therapy clients. We were talking about this notion of comparison and this idea that there always has to be something that we're doing or working towards. And what can happen in us moving a goalpost when it comes to doing the work is we can fail to appreciate the small steps that we're taking. So I just want to do a really short episode and share a technique that can help you begin to show gratitude, begin to honour the steps that you're taking, and also just to explain why it's really important on your self-love journey to be honouring and celebrating yourself. So, the way that I like to look at these small little wins and these small mementos, as I like to look at them as steps that you are taking to become the woman that you desire to be. So what tends to happen is people now see healing or doing the work as like a destination. A lot of people view healing as a badge of honor that they can wear and then they will be done. And they almost think that they are going to get to this romanticized ending and they're never going to have to do the work again. Now, when you're in this space for a long time, you realize that unfortunately, that's not how it works. Like, we wish that was how it worked. It would be so much easier if that's how it worked. But unfortunately, you're always just trying to get to know yourself that little bit better. And every time you reach a new layer of yourself, or every time you up level, or every time you step up and become this new version of yourself, there's always going to be something new that you want to unravel, or a new shadow part of yourself that you meet, or a way that you feel like you can go deeper. Because life is all about ebb and flow. Life is about up and down. Life is about dark and light. So every single time you're in a situation of darkness or you're in a painful situation, you're going to come out the other side of that with growth and lessons. So life is never going to stop giving us those things, which means therefore we're never going to stop growing. We're never going to stop evolving. We're never going to stop with the self-introspection. So it's really important for you to just understand that it's not a destination, and it's really honouring yourself on this journey that you're on, because this woman that you are today has so much to thank to that older version of you for all of those little baby steps that she took in order to get here. So that is why it's super important on your self-love journey to show yourself love and appreciation along the way, because you need to come at this work with a sense of compassion and love for yourself, like you are the love of your life. So if you're a mother listening to this, the unconditional love that you give your children is the love that we want to harness for you, because you would love your children no matter what. So it's all about being able to love yourself no matter what, to be able to, like I've said in past episodes, to be able to appreciate all of these different parts of you, see all these different parts of you, know that you're going to make mistakes along the way, and just really come at the work, the self-love work, with a sense of gratitude and love. Because I think as women, we don't give ourselves love. We don't show ourselves gratitude. We don't show ourselves compassion. We don't show ourselves love. And even when we can tend to do that, it may be quite surface level. Or if we have a moment where we're feeling into that love and gratitude of self, there's something that very quickly pulls us out of that and makes us think that we should be doing more, or we're on to the next step, or we start comparing to other people. So honouring yourself on this journey is really a beautiful way to come back into that energy of love and gratitude. It's a really beautiful way for you to keep a track of the momentum that you're making, keep a track of the direction that you're heading in. So small things like, if you eat something and then you notice that you don't feel guilt after it, that's a small win. If you text somebody your feelings and you vocalize your truth, that's a small win. If you go the gym without your Apple Watch on and you exercise without keeping track of the calories, that's a win. If you wear a top that doesn't hide your body and you wear something that you feel confident in, that's a win. So it's really about understanding that all of these subtle changes in behavior are the thing that is going to create this woman that you desire to be. It's going to create this change that you desire. It's in essence going to welcome in that self-love in your life. So really, really being able to honor the progress that you have made is just a beautiful way for you to really give thanks to that past version of yourself. So like I was saying before, what we can do is we can focus on the end goal. I want to speak my truth. Okay, what will that look like? Well, that will look like I have boundaries in place. I vocalize when I'm not comfortable with something. And then what we can tend to do is miss out all of the in-between, miss out the starting point and just focus on the end goal, which means that we're losing sight of all of the steps that we're taking to get to that goal. And it's almost like you only come back into the room and drop back into the process and celebrate and appreciate yourself when that day finally comes where you may say, no, I don't agree with that actually, or no, I can't come out tonight because I want to give myself time and space. The day you finally communicate a big boundary, or the day you finally communicate your truth face to face with someone. And there's so much more love and celebration that should be given to you before that moment. So this is just a little exercise that I want to share. So one of the things that I've came up with is like almost like a celebration list. And you can start this now, and you could call this like a self-love celebration list, or whatever it is that you want to call it. Put it in a journal somewhere, write it in your notes on your phone, and start to write down all of the small wins and all of the small steps that you're taking towards becoming that woman that you want to be. So if you send a text message, or all of the things I said before, about going to the gym, wearing that t-shirt, whatever it is, start to write down all of these small wins on a list. And then anytime you feel like you're starting to compare yourself, or anytime you feel like you're not doing enough, or anytime you feel like your progress isn't where you want it to be, you come back to this list and you take your time to read over this like celebration of self-love list. And the invitation is to put your hand on your heart as you do this, and to just really drop in and give yourself 5 minutes of presence, so you can do this wherever feels good for you to do. Put your hands on your heart and drop in and read every single one of those things with intention. And then take a minute to remember how at one point that felt for you when you thought about doing that. Because there was a version of you that, and if we said to her, don't wear a baggy t-shirt, she would have recoiled. There was a version of you where sending a text message and saying that you was unavailable would have been the worst thing ever, because she was so worried about judgment. There's a version of you that would only ever go to the gym with an Apple Watch on. If you didn't track that workout, then it didn't matter. So really remembering where you have been and honouring where you are right now is crucial for your self-love journey, because it's the ultimate act of love and appreciation. So when you read each one of these things out, take a minute to really read it with intent and remember how much effort or how much progress that was for you to get to that point. And then with every single one that you read out, give thanks to your past self. Thank you so much for getting me to this point. Or you can say something like, hand on your heart, you read that small win that you've done. I see that past version of myself. Or to that past version of myself, I see you, I love you, thank you so much for allowing me to be the woman that I am today. And you just take your time to go through every one of these things that you've written. Now, my thing that I would say with this is keep your big wins for a separate list, because you're going to remember the big wins. The beauty in this list is we are tapping into the micro moments where you have stood up for yourself. But what we are tapping into is the the habits that you have formed, the self-worth that you have built, the times when you've stood up for yourself, the self-love that you've lent into, the edges that you've lent into. And there's going to be so many little moments of those that you possibly think are irrelevant that are so relevant. And it's this list that has created the big list, the big wins. Without those small wins, you would not have your big wins when it comes to your self-love journey. So it's just about making time and space to really honor those small wins. And one of the other things that you can do is, once you put your hand on your heart, you can just really breathe into that energy, and you can just really be intentional with tuning into, the thanks that you are given. Give yourself the love, and just really feel that come from your heart space. Give thanks to that past version of yourself. And then you can journal about how it feels in this moment. How does it feel to be reflecting on your small wins? How does it feel to know that you've come so far from that woman that you used to be? How does it feel to look back at that list and see that you have done those things? And just really take that time to drop in and tune into that. So this was just a super simple podcast episode, but one that I felt was really important, because I know as women, we fail to notice just the progress that we make. We fail to give ourselves credit where credit is due. And that is one of the things that keeps perpetuating this cycle of, I'm not enough. I'm not doing enough. I can't have self-love. Self-love's not for me. This work doesn't work for me. I'm not making any improvements. This list is going to be an evidence bank that you can do the things that you once thought at one time were going to be so hard. And it's also an evidence bank that you are heading in the right direction. So anytime you feel like you've not got it together, come back to this list. And every single time you have a small win, add to that list. It doesn't matter if this list becomes pages and pages, add to it. And know that as you grow as a woman, those things that seem that you're going to discover new things that feel edgy, that feel difficult, that you could never imagine yourself to do. So one day you're going to feel very comfortable setting boundaries, but there's going to be something else now as the woman that you are that feels like it's a big deal, that you could not imagine, that makes you feel uncomfortable. So what you do again is you write on that list, what are these small steps? What are these small wins that you can celebrate? And in really connecting to your heart and being intentional and giving thanks, what you're doing is you're just solidifying that love within every single cell of your body, but you're giving it to yourself instead of giving it out to other people. You're starting to welcome in that unconditional love and unconditional energy of, I am capable. The same love and the same way that you show up for everybody else, this is now a process and a little technique where you can start to give that back to yourself for just being and doing the small things. So that was my offering for today's podcast. And I would love to know if you try that. I would love to know how this resonated for you. I would love to know if this has worked for you, if you tried it. And if you know somebody who needs this, who is hard on themselves, who compares themselves a lot, who feels like she can't celebrate the small steps that she's taken, send this podcast episode to her and just gift her with this little technique that may help her just begin to drop back into her heart and just start to welcome in that self-love. So that being said, this is today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you next week for another episode of the podcast.